All right, this one is for my gluten-free and celiac peeps. It's not very often that I'm impressed with gluten-free bread products in particular, but these were really, really good. So, of course, I had to make Jen a killer grilled cheese sandwich on the fly, and she loved it, and I'm gonna replicate it for you right now. First things first, I'm gonna make some homemade basil pesto. Now, it's perfectly fine to use the store-bought stuff. I just love the freshness of homemade basil pesto. It just doesn't compare. 1 clove of garlic. You don't really need to chop it. Now this is going to be made entirely in the food processor. I'm just going to make a little bit, so I'm using my mini chop. Now, I got this recipe from acouplecooks.com. Great blog. They recommend toasting the nuts. Usually pine nuts is what you use in a pesto, but you can use almonds, walnuts. I'm using cashews. Now, there's 2 ways to go about this. You can toast them, which gives a lot more of that toasty, nutty flavor. I actually soak these in water. They're not as flavorful, but it gives like a more creamy consistency, which I love. And some fresh grated, good quality Parmesan. Cheese, because you always gotta have cheese. Unless you're lactose intolerant. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and blend that up. So you want that as smooth as possible. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stuff the basil. It's about 1 packed cup's worth of basil. And you know what? I need a little bit of lemon. Thank you. Just gonna go ahead. That's gonna give it some real citrusy zing and add a little bit of liquid to help loosen it up. Okay, beautiful. That smells awesome with the basil and the lemon. And just blend it up again. Because there's not a ton of liquid in there yet, you might have to scrape the sides down a little bit. You just don't want to overwork the olive oil. That's why it goes in later. You could end up with a bitter pesto otherwise. All right, now just a hint of salt. A little bit of fresh cracked pepper. And we're going to incorporate the olive oil slowly. So just blend it a little bit in and put the olive oil in until it's the right consistency. Some people like it thicker, some like it thinner. I like it right in the middle. That is beautiful, and now you can't have a grilled cheese without cheese. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a little bit of mozzarella. Grilled cheese aren't fussy. You can use literally just about any kind of cheese you want. I always say as long as there's at least 2 kinds of cheese, really gives that full richness, body of flavor. You know, it's fairly fresh because it's hard to cut. That should be good. I've got some provolone that's already sliced. And now for the bread. So this doesn't look like regular gluten-free bread. And if you see, like, look how nice and soft it is with that rustic edge. Perfect. Perfect for a grilled cheese. I'm going to take these 2 pieces here. Oddly enough, smells like bread. All right. Pan goes on medium heat, a little bit of butter. First thing I'm gonna do is a nice thin little layer of pesto. Make sure you get all the way to the edge because you want some of that in every bite. So good. Next, a layer of cheese. I'm gonna put the provolone down. I'm gonna try to cover the whole area here. Okay, now I've got some roasted red peppers. Again, I roast my own. It takes a lot of time. I know I like it better that way. The stuff that you get in the jar is just fine for this. But you are going to want to dab them with a paper towel. But whether you made them at home or they're out of a jar, you want to make sure they're as dry as possible. That goes for any sandwich, but particularly for gluten-free, you want to keep the bread as dry as possible. It tends to be fairly susceptible to going soft and absorbing the moisture. This is so awesome. If you have a little bit of the char on your red pepper, it just gives it that rustic, full, charred flavor. It's awesome. All right, little mozzarella on top. Again, the cheese below and above is going to protect the bread from the moisture of the red pepper. You want to make sure that's hot enough because you want to get a nice, toasted, crispy outside edge on that bread. I'm going to go ahead and flip it. That is nice and crispy golden brown. You can see the cheese melting along the side. So good. And she is done. As simple as that. Check that out. That's about as good as a sandwich can smell. You've got the butter and the toasted bread, and you can really smell the basil and the garlic. Awesome. Just go ahead and give it a cut. Cheese dripping and the bread is still crispy. Awesome. That's exactly what you want in a grilled cheese. That is honestly so good, and what an awesome way to kick up your grilled cheese sandwich. There's a reason they call that comfort food. Totally recommend this. Promise bread is great. Try it with your other gluten-free breads, but you gotta try it. It's awesome. I literally can't stop eating it. I should mention that if you're gluten-free, celiac, got a celiac family member, I'm gonna be doing a whole bunch of videos in that series. As many of you may already know, my wife Jennifer and son have celiac disease, so we're gonna be doing a lot of exciting gluten-free and dairy-free recipes. And if that's up your alley, subscribe.